Once there was a man named Tobe, a successful businessman. His whole life revolved around his work. He was married to a beautiful woman named Joyce, and they had been together for 3 years without children. It wasn't because they could not have kids or hadn't tried. Tobe simply felt unprepared due to the cost of raising children. Joyce was unhappy about this, but Tobe seemed indifferent. One day, when Tobe returned from work, Joyce served him his supper and asked if they could talk. What is it now? I am telling you in advance. If it is about money, the answer is no. I do not have money to give, Tobe exclaimed. My husband, it is not about money. There is something that has been bothering me. Don't you think it is high time we started thinking of having kids? Joyce asked. I have told you, I do not have money to start raising kids now, Tobe snapped. But my love, it's been 3 years. When exactly are you going to be ready to start having children? Joyce asked. I do not know for now. It seemed as if you don't want me to enjoy this food. Well, you can have it. I am going to bed. Tobe left Joyce, sitting on the table. Joyce sat on the table, her heart filled with regret. Throw back to the past, Tobe's auntie, Ushe, has been on his neck to get married, but he refused, saying he doesn't have money to start a family yet. Even his friends with 2 to 3 kids have been persuading him with no positive results. Years later, despite his reluctance, he finally agreed to get married to Joyce. Joyce is a well-respectful and well-mannered lady. She is the only child of her mom. Her dad is late. Back to present, tears welled up her eyes as she thought of what step to take next. She got into the shower and wore her best night dress, and off to bed she went. As her hand rubbed through Tobe's body, Tobe woke up. What are you doing? Suspicious of her intentions. I am not getting you pregnant, so keep your hands to yourself. And where did you get the money to buy this perfume from? He demanded. Joyce tried to change the mood, but Tobe rebuffed her, saying, I am not ready to give you what you want tonight. Frustrated, Joyce insisted. It's been 3 whole years and you barely touched me because you are afraid of having kids. Tobe dismissed her angrily, leaving her to sleep in the lounge. Joyce sat up, feeling defeated and regretting the day she said yes to him. Days passed and Joyce decided to take some actions. Despite Tobe's disapproval, she resolved to start working. That evening, she approached him calmly after dinner, asking for money to start up a business. You think I don't support my family enough? Tobe retorted. All my friends' wives don't work, so why do you want to? Joyce countered. Those wives live in luxury. They go on vacations, they live in duplexes and have monthly allowances. I haven't received any gift from you since we got married. I still wear clothes from before we married. I don't go for parties because I have nothing to wear. When I ask you for money, you say I'm a wasteful wife. Yet, I stick with you. I've never made it an issue. It became an issue when you do not want to have kids, just because you do not want to spend your money. They call you to be millions, but your wife is suffering. I am tired, Joyce screamed and cried. So you now compare me to my friends. You, a woman I paid her bride price, shouting at me. Well, I do not have money to give you, and that is final. He left Joyce standing, sad and hopeless, as she melted into the sofa. Joyce felt trapped in her life like a bird in a cage. She was the only child of her parents, and whenever she complained to her mother would tell her to obey her husband and do what he said. But Joyce yearned for freedom, constantly wondering if this was all there was to life. One sunny afternoon, Adaku, a friend from her social circle, came to visit Joyce. Adaku was preparing for her 40th birthday party. Adaku brought along some expensive clothes for her group of friends to wear. But there was a catch. Joyce was expected to pay double the price because Tobe was a wealthy businessman known for his successful importation business. As Adaku chatted, she noticed a shift in Joyce's mood. Joyce appeared sad and on the verge of tears. I am sorry, I can't come to your party, Joyce said, her voice trembling. Why? Is everything okay? Adaku asked, concerned. Joyce broke down, revealing her struggles with Tobe. Despite his words, he barely gives me any money. He calls me wasteful whenever I ask for more. He refused to have children, claiming he can't afford them. He didn't want me to work or start my own business. He gives me 10,000 naira for feeding per week, and that is the only money I get from him. Adako was shocked. Your husband, Tobe, is the richest in his line. My husband and Tobe just won a contract worth over 500 million to supply building materials to a new estate in town. Why do you think everyone calls him Tobe Millions? Your husband is rich. In fact, he is super rich. Joyce could only cry, feeling hopeless. Seeing her distress, Adaku offered, you should start something on your own. Maybe he will change his ways. I'll talk to other women in our group and we can raise you some money to start something. You can have the clothes, and this is 50,000 naira for the sewing and other things you might need. Joyce was surprised. She collected the money and thanked her, feeling a flicker of hope. But just as she was beginning to see a way out, she received a devastating news that her mother was in the hospital and needed the sum of 500,000 naira for treatment. Joyce knew Tobe wouldn't help, but she decided to ask anyway because she does not have any other person to run to. Immediately Tobe got back from work, she went to him and told him that her mom is sick and needed the sum of 500,000 naira so that the doctors can commence treatment. Tobe's eyes widened. 500 what? Do you know how many goods I can import with that? And how much profit I can make from it? I'm very sorry about your mom, but I do not have that kind of money, Tobe said as he turned to leave. Please, she is all I've got. I know you have the money. Save my mom and I promise I won't ask you for money ever. Please, Joyce pleaded in tears. Business is not moving fine. I don't think I have that kind of money. Look, there is time for everything. Maybe it is time for Mama to go. It will be foolish for us to waste money, Tobe said as he went inside, shouting, Where is my food? Joyce screamed back at him, You are wicked, as she opened the door and ran out of the house. Joyce still had some money from the one Adako had given her earlier. So she took a taxi to Adako's house. When she arrived and shared her story, Adako and her husband James were shocked. Joyce pleaded, "My mother is all I've got left. She can't die. If you can borrow me some money, I promise I'll get a job and pay you back in installments." James left the room and returned with some money. He handed it to Joyce, saying, "Here is 700K. Use it for your mom's treatment and use what is left for food and transport. You don't need to pay it back." Grateful, Joyce thanked him and headed for the village that night. The next morning, Tobe noticed that Joyce wasn't home. She didn't come back home yesterday, he thought. All this drama, just trying to get money from me. Well, she will return when she's tired. He dressed up and left for his shop, where James convinced him to join him at a nearby bar. He only offered to join James after James offered to pay for the drinks. At the bar, James confronted Tobe. "I am not happy with you. We've both worked hard and have enough money to last us a lifetime. Why don't you care for yourself or your wife? If she doesn't enjoy your success, who will? Her family needed help and you refused to offer that help." Tobe replied, "I worked so hard for my money. Why does everyone feel entitled to it? I give her 10,000 naira weekly." James, almost choking on his drink, exclaimed, 10,000, what for? For cooking, of course. She's been with me almost 4 years, and that is a lot of money put together. I hate when people feel entitled to my earning, Tobe said. James was furious, stood up and declared, "She cooks your meal, cleans your house, washes your clothes, supports you emotionally, warms your bed, and ready to risk her life and carry your babies. If you were to pay for these services, it will amount to millions monthly. I hope she finds the courage to leave you. You are not fit to be called a husband," he said angrily as he left the bar. When Tobe returned home that evening, he found Joyce unusually silent. She placed his meal on the table and headed straight to the bedroom without a word. Surprised but do not want to stir the pot, Tobe ate his dinner and went to bed. The next day, he decided to unwind at a bar where he ran into his old friend, Jude. Jude was accompanied by a woman. As they chatted, Tobe asked who she was. Jude chuckled and revealed that she was a side chick. They both laughed it off and Jude left. Tobe thought to himself, honestly, keeping a wife is so expensive and troublesome. Side chick don't ask for much, just some little cash. Intrigued, Tobe called Jude on the phone. If Jude could set him up with one. Jude obliged and introduced him to a woman named Rose. Eager for a night out, Tobe and Rose decided to go to the Crystal Hotel. This place was chosen by Rose, the priciest spot in town. As they dined, Rose ordered lavishly, and the bill arrived. Tobe's heart sank. It totaled 300,000 naira. He broke into a sweat, panicking as he struggled to pay after what felt like an eternity. He managed to settle the bill. The moment he got home, he deleted Rose's number and vowed never to speak with her again. Meanwhile, Joyce was moving on with her life. Adako's group had raised 3 million naira to help her start a business and care for her ailing mother. Grateful, Joyce partnered with Adako to open a food shop, which quickly became so popular. Joyce ensured she was home before Tobe returned and slipped out after he left for his work for the day. As weeks went by, Tobe started noticing a shift in Joyce's mood. She seemed genuinely happy without him. Her laughter was brighter. She had gotten a new phone and it buzzed with messages. And even the meal she prepared were tastier and more generous because Joyce added her money to get good food items. It was clear Joyce was thriving on her own. Joyce was living her best life without Tobe, and this was driving him crazy. One day, Tobe's aunt Uche came to their house in tears, asking for money to pay her farm workers. Tobe, as usual, claimed he didn't have any cash, but Joyce surprised everyone by pulling out 200,000 from her purse and handing it over to Uche. Uche was overjoyed and thanked Joyce, leaving Tobe stunned. Tobe confronted Joyce, demanding to know where she got the money and accusing her of being unfaithful. But Joyce remained silent, dressed in a stunning new night dress, and went to bed. Tobe was furious. How can you waste 200,000 without asking me, your husband, the man of the house? Where did you get such an amount of money from? So you have started following men, convinced that Joyce was hiding something. As Tobe kept yelling, Joyce did not say a word as she laid on the bed, and this infuriated Tobe the more. The next day, Tobe couldn't focus at work and came home early after deciding that if he gets Joyce pregnant, no man would want her, and that way he would keep her to himself. Only to find out that Joyce was not at home. He was consumed by jealousy, fear, and anger. Meanwhile, Joyce's business was thriving thanks to her excellent customer service and her glowing review. She had even decided to talk to her mom about returning to base bride price and ready to move on. The next day, Joyce was preparing to break the news as she's no longer interested in the marriage to Tobe when she heard a loud bang. She rushed to find Tobe slumped on the floor. She called for help and he was rushed to the hospital. After regaining consciousness, Tobe was in poor condition and the doctor demanded 10 million naira for treatment. Joyce begged him to pay, but Tobe refused, calling the doctors thieves. The doctor warned that if the deposit wasn't made that day, Tobe would be discharged. Joyce was torn between her love for Tobe and her desire to be free. Even though she doesn't want the marriage anymore, she wanted him to leave and would do anything to make him survive. Joyce pleaded with Tobe to pay for his medical treatment, but he refused. Joyce went to James Adaku's husband, but he refused to help, saying that Tobe could afford 10x the full amount and wouldn't feel a thing. Joyce returned to the hospital and told Tobe that she has 2 million naira if he could add the remaining balance, but he asked her to take him to a traditional healer who would treat him for just 5,000 naira. Joyce was at the wit's end as everyone assumed Tobe had the money and won't help. By evening, Joyce received the devastating news that Tobe had passed. She cried, but it didn't take her long to move on. James helped with her transition into running Tobe's business, introducing her to his lawyer and account manager. Joyce was shocked to discover that Tobe had over 2 billion naira saved in multiple accounts with 25 containers of goods incoming and 5 mansions in different states. Her heart was broken, exhausted from the emotional and mental torture Tobe had put her through. A year later, Joyce had moved on, buying a new house in the most expensive part of the town and getting a new car. She managed both her business and Tobe's business as well. She took care of all Tobe's family, especially his aunt. She started a new business for her. And after 3 years, she decided to give love another chance. She got married to a wealthy businessman named Afam. They were deeply in love. On one of their vacations, Joyce discovered that she was pregnant, and her joy knew no bound. Afam was very happy as well. Afam pampered her and treated her like a queen. She wished she had met him sooner. Joyce believed in love and marriage again, saying that marriage is a beautiful thing. And after 9 months, she was blessed with a handsome baby boy. They all lived happily thereafter, and the story comes to an end.